Am I the asshole for firing my babysitter because she wants to make my kid a lesbian? F32 here. Me and my husband, M34, have two beautiful children, M8 and F6, that we need someone to babysit for the day while both of us head out to work. Keep in mind that we also installed nanny cams in our living room and our son's room with the babysitter's consent. Our babysitter, F17, is a daughter of a friend and is a proud lesbian advocate, to say at the least. She's been babysitting our children for about 2.5 months now, and I'd actually been getting to know her a bit more and got along with her personality. It wasn't until one day when my daughter began saying strange things after she'd leave. Mommy, babysitter, told me about why I should like girlies or babysitter, said a lot of girls would like me when I grow up. I didn't know what to think of it, so I would just respond with okay honey that's great or sure sweetie. A few days ago my babysitter tells me my daughter may be a lesbian. I'm confused more than anything, because it was really out of the blue. She tells me she's been watching compilations of age appropriate lesbian shows on YouTube with her, and that may have been what awakened her, while my son was alone in his room playing by himself. This upsets both me and my husband, and the nanny cams confirm what she says. Me and my husband tell her she's no longer welcome to babysit our kids. She's clearly upset and says we wouldn't have done this if she weren't a lesbian. I honestly didn't know what to say, and I wished her well. AITA for firing her? NTA, but I may change my vote. As a lesbian myself, I find her behavior inappropriate in that it was not her place to approach you. If your daughter was asking a question and she was educating, that would be a very different thing. Or if she were watching something age appropriate that had lesbian subtext, Legend of Korra and Adventure Time, I'm looking at you, and your daughter joined her or something, that's different too. I dislike that she was telling your young daughter why she should be a lesbian. I find that a bit cringy. If you truly fired her because you were uncomfortable with her being out and an advocate, then I may change my tune. I'll be watching the comments like a hawk. Of all the things you listed, the only thing I can really think of that I wouldn't like would be her telling my child she should be gay because X, Y, Z. I'm firmly of the opinion you gotta make your own decision. Don't worry about outside influence and maybe what they were watching, depending on whether it was actually age appropriate and its context. Edited for clarity. Education is a different thing. If your daughter showed an active interest, asked questions, saw something that was 100% age appropriate and not pushing an agenda, just educational or fun, then she didn't really do anything wrong. I agree that her telling your daughter why she should be lesbian is inappropriate, but your babysitter is still very young and might have just overshared because she was excited someone was asking her, perhaps without considering how age appropriate her answers may have been. On the other hand, it's not my place to tell you who you want babysitting and what you consider appropriate. NTA. Explain her that if a male babysitter would say such things to your daughter, boys will like you and you should like boys, you would have him fired and maybe even tell the police. Since you are also a feminist and believe man and woman should be treated equally, then you have to fire her. NTA. It's really weird and upsetting to try and sexualize a 6-year-old like this. You did the right thing op. If you can please go back through your camera history to ensure there was no other inappropriate actions, as this sounds like the beginning of pedophilic grooming and not like she was trying to convince your daughter to be a LGBTQ+ person. Edit. Clarifying that pedophilic grooming has a start point and this isn't like end phase actions point, sounds like pedophilic grooming and not like she was trying to convince your daughter to be a LGBTQ+ person. Well, that's pretty big leap there. NTA. Ridiculous. You can't for sure know the sexual orientation of a pubescent child. She's 6 and not even attracted to anyone really at that age. Feels like she's just pushing her agenda down your daughter's throat, or being rather obsessive with the thought that a 6-year child could be a lesbian. It just sounds disturbing. And watching age-appropriate lesbian shows on YouTube and talking about awakening her sounds really delusional and toxic. Let alone that she left the other kid unsupervised for God knows how long. That alone would be a reason for me to fire her instantly. A lot of girls would like me when I grow up. That's just such a creepy thing to say to a 6-year-old. Just imagine if a man said this to a child. NTA, it's your house. You have the right to hire caretakers that you trust. You don't need a reason at all for firing her, and you don't owe her an explanation either. Now, according to the Supreme Court decision, you are denying her constitutional rights, and you can be sued and forced to allow this lesbian to indoctrinate your children. He wouldn't be firing her for being LGBT, he would be firing her for forcing views on a young child that are also inappropriate for her age and make them uncomfortable, as far as I see it. So this isn't in violation. Still, I understand your point that it would be bad if it worked that way, and just because she's lesbian, that must be what she's been fired for. So that wrong and illegal/s. She's using being a lesbian against you and does seem to be actively encouraging/forcing it rather than seeing what the girl actually expresses to her and to you. I wouldn't be surprised if she said it made you homophobic. It doesn't. Pushing an agenda someone doesn't want is unfair, so I'm going with NTA. It's different if your girl seemed actively interested in it while being exposed equally to other concepts, rather than only being allowed to look at one concept, being lesbian. But it seems this isn't the case whenever she's with the babysitter. Maybe you can talk it out with her and the babysitter and say how it appears/makes you feel. Explain to your girl that this is something she can be interested in if she wishes, but she doesn't have to, and maybe explain about different relationships and the babysitter if you see fit. I'm going to say NTA on this one. It's absolutely ridiculous to sexualize a 6-year-old. In addition, she left your 8-year-old alone. Info: what makes you think she was trying to convert her? I'm sure you have your reasons. It's just convert is a strong word. Your daughter is really young for this kind of stuff, but is there a chance she's just trying to make sure she knows it's okay? But also, why is your son in another room? Isn't she meant to be babysitting both of them? She wasn't neglecting our son or anything, just really excited about getting to spend time with our daughter. Our son is also a bit of an introvert and likes playing by himself sometimes. I do realize convert may have had a strong connotation and probably should have used a different word. I'm honestly confused about all of this as well, and I don't know how to feel about it as it could be a sensitive topic. NTA, this sounds like predatory behavior and is a ridiculous overstep of her role in this child's life. If you have any sense of civil responsibility, you'll find some way of notifying other people about her conduct. Anyone in any way defending someone engaging in the manipulation of a preteen's sexuality is a morally bankrupt monster. I'm going with NTA. I'm a gay woman, but a bit older than your babysitter. I genuinely think this is gross and inappropriate. It is exactly like saying bet you will have a lot of boyfriends when you grow up/boys will be attracted to you. People need to stop sexualizing children. She is 6 and should be worrying about what color she wants her bedroom, not if lots of girls will find her attractive when she grows up. If she asks if it's okay to like girls as well as boys, sure. Sexuality should be on the individual's terms, not what someone else thinks is best for them. There's a difference between teaching children to be tolerant/embrace equality and diversity and ramming information that they didn't ask for down their throats. You mentioned that she ignored your little boy as well. Not cool. NTA. It seems pretty clear that the babysitter is having an influence on your daughter. It's not your daughter being awakened. That said, your babysitter can't turn someone lesbian. That's not how it works. Just like you can't turn someone straight. It's still not a good influence to have around your kids though. NTA. I see other people here saying it's healthy for kids to know about homosexual relationships, which I understand, but the way I see it is sexuality is a conversation that you should not be having with a 6-year-old child, and it should be handled by the parent, not by a nanny. It's safe to assume that, because of the fact that your child came to you saying that the nanny said that girls would like her when she grew up, and that your nanny was showing her lesbian shows, that your nanny was overstepping her bounds and introducing your child to something that your child is too young to fully understand. You made it clear that you had no issues with the nanny being lesbian, but you did have a problem with her teaching your kid about sexuality, which, to be fair, is not in the job description. You did the right thing. NTA. Fire her immediately, but give her no reason other than money issues to avoid any backlash. Trying to influence a child's sexuality at such a young age is creepy behavior and confusing for a child. There's nothing wrong with being a lesbian, or any sexuality preference for that matter, but kids should come to their own natural state without external interference. NTA. Your problem isn't that she's a lesbian, not even that she's open about who she with your kids. It's that she actively promoting it your kids, like it's something that can be influenced and indoctrinated. Sexuality is not a choice, which is what makes the babysitter's actions just weird and kind of icky. Luckily, your daughter will be whatever she will be regardless of this former babysitter's actions. NTA. Those kinds of conversations, regardless of the orientation involved, should be handled exclusively by the parents, unless say the caregiver is given explicit permission to do so. I used to babysit for my landlord's kids and I stayed away from any topic of conversation that strayed in any way near topics like this. I would make sure to tell the parents that the kids were asking these sorts of questions, and I left it to them. B. If the parents are unable due to death or other circumstances, then a qualified caregiver should be the one to do it. If this were the mother-in-law subreddit, and we were hearing this story, but instead it was a mother-in-law instead of a 17-year-old, there would be no question that boundaries had been crossed. You are not a homophobe, you are somebody who is justifiably upset about somebody who is not qualified to do so talking about such things with your daughter. AITA. Not for firing her, but for the fact that you don't even know if you should have fired someone trying to indoctrinate your own children in a way you don't approve of. Not sure why you are unsure if someone is doing things or exposing your children to things that you are not ready for them to address or see. I think it's more about the fact that babysitter is pressuring the child to have some kind of sexual revelation while the other child is left alone in another room. This is no different than grooming.